Yeah.
I don't know if I say this enough, but the Tales series has easily some of my favorite character libraries in any form of fiction. Despite most games having a fantasy setting, those magnificent people at Bamco have always found a way to make these wacky characters feel real and relatable. And while there are some characters that don't always hit the mark, the main characters are nearly always quality, and I struggle to think of many that I dislike. In other words, this countdown was really all but inevitable, but I'd like to clear up a few things before we start. I'm only accepting one character per game because if I didn't, well, certain games would dominate this list for sure. That, and since most of these characters require all the context for me to explain why I like them, be prepared for some spoilers on most of the segments. Other than that though, let's talk anime, people. Oh no. Not you again. So I'm pretty sure I made my feelings about Xillia 2 pretty clear in another countdown of mine, but like I said, it has some good things about it. Unfortunately though, the new characters introduced aren't really one of those things. There's only one that I really actively dislike, but the rest are just kinda meh? But this is still a list of my favorite characters, and you can bet your sweet Bippy there's an exception. Julius Kresnik is the older brother of the protagonist Luger, and he's introduced as a mature big brother type character at the very beginning of the game. But once things start rolling, his character starts to open up more too. At first, he's put into the role of a villain slash anti-hero due to terrorist shenanigans, and you spend a good part of the main story hunting him down for Spirius. But whenever you meet him, it's easy to get attached to him because of his charm and his brotherly attitude towards Luger, even in spite of everything that's happened. What Julius really wants, though, is to protect his brother from the Kresnik curse and anything to do with Origin's trial. And he shows this desire time and time again, with constantly trying to either stop Luger from working for Spirius, or simply just his reluctance to fight him whenever they cross paths. And this leads to the endgame, where Julius lays down his own life so that his brother can move forward and protect what's most important to him. Not only do I love Julius for his admirable devotion for his brother, but I also really like his strong will he presents throughout the game, along with things like his charm and personality, and I was genuinely sad to see him go. He might not be the most relatable character, and he kinda lacks screen time, but I still love him all the same. And even then, he's still my dad. And I love my dad. So Tales Symphonia Dawn of the New World is a video game that exists, and it's kinda... I mean, I'm one of the 5 people on the planet who likes this game to some extent, but even then, this game has a lot of big problems. The main protagonist isn't one of them though, he's pretty cool. Emile Castagna is introduced to us as a rather fearful person. His parents were killed in a purge by this guy in red with 2 swords, you might know him, and as a result, he lives in an abusive household with his aunt and her husband. However, he is inspired to have more courage by this cheesy line, which eventually leads him to meet with the other protagonist, Marta. Wanting to protect the girl, Emile makes a pact with Ratatosk, becomes Marta's guardian, and his journey begins. What I like most about Emile is his growth throughout the game. Granted, he does still cower in fear for most of the game, but the moments of courage he has against the antagonists and even the old cast from the first game make him truly great. That's not to say Emile's personality is bad, because despite his cowardice, he's pretty endearing and likable, and combined with his foul-mouthed Ratatosk mode, it makes for some great comedic writing and heartfelt moments in the story. And this comes to a head during the final chapter of the game, where it's revealed that Emile is the spirit Ratatosk, put into a body of a dead person with fake memories from another dead person. And when Emile learns this, along with Ratatosk's intentions of wiping out humanity, he decides to take matters into his own hands by locking his Ratatosk personality inside him. And this solidifies Emile's character for me. he finally takes on and accepts the role he's been growing into, and even convinces Rathatos to help him save everyone at the end. I just love Emile a lot, and the fact that he's part of a subpar video game won't change that.
I like girls.
Oh, Tales of Styria, you might be massively disliked by most other fans, and I do have some major problems with you, but I still like you. Even if Styria does fall into the curse of not really having most of its characters developed throughout the main story, I still came to enjoy pretty much everyone in the main cast with their base personalities and their amazing interactions. As for my favorite, well, girl hot. This is a very funny joke. Please laugh. I need sustenance. Lila is just a joyride from head to toe. I love her design. The prominent use of red and white creates a nice contrast as well as a fiery aesthetic of a beautifully flowing flame. The hues of turquoise in her hair also give off a serene vibe, befitting of the shepherd's prime lord. Not to mention that she's a big cutie pie. I'm a sucker for cute girls, and Lila is like at least 180% cuteness. As for her personality, I love her quirkiness and caring attitude towards everyone, especially Sore. Her interactions with the other characters range from pouting at stuff to getting excited over the weirdest things to acting team mom to all kinds of random and funny cuteness. It's always a joy to watch. And while I don't really like her oath as a plot device, it makes for some endearing moments that I can't help but love. I do wish Styria would have given Lila more to work with in the main story, and I would have loved to see some expansion on her background and character in a certain other game, but what I got is still a character I can look back on with a smile. And hey, we're getting a new shot with a similar design to Lila's with Shion in Tales of Arise, and just like Lila, she's packing some serious heat.
You know, the past me really was an inferior being.
Longtime viewers might remember that I've mentioned my favorite character from Tales Symphonia in a countdown once before, but let's just say I didn't do him justice. Symphonia's cast in general is just kinda okay in my opinion, but there are a good few gems in this cast as well. And in my opinion, the Traitor to Heaven shines above the rest. You could even say he has a shining bind above them. First impression that you'll probably have on Kratos Orion is something along the lines of, holy shit, this guy is badass. And you'd be right. That's exactly it, Chief. At first, he's just a swordsman guarding Colette during her journey, and he seems to be driven by that goal alone. But he eventually starts to open up, and he even gives some valuable life lessons to the main character, Lloyd. But the truth is that Kratos isn't just some random mercenary. To put a very long story short, he's actually an angel, and he's cynical as fuck towards the world, which is why he sides with the bad guys after the reveal. But he also wants to believe in the human's potential, and so his allegiances tend to switch a lot throughout the game. He also does that because he's Lloyd's biological father. Yep. And therein lies the reason why I love Kratos so much. He's a very enigmatic character, and he has this air of mystery that pulls you to him. Not to mention that his backstory about his life with Mythos' crew and becoming an Angel of Crucis is interesting, and him being Lloyd's father recontextualizes some of the scenes in a way that makes them rather heartwarming. So yeah, I love this badass bastard, and no matter if he's swinging that sword or flapping his wings, that is a fact that won't change no matter how much I struggle against these holy chains. Going back to Tales' character casts that suffer from the curse of not having proper development in their main story, the cast of Grace is good and y'all are just mean. I mean, I don't feel nearly as strongly about this bunch as I used to, but I still struggle to call any of these guys nothing but okay or meh at worst. Also, my favorite character in this game is the one everyone probably hates the most, so there might be something wrong with my taste after all. So how do I explain my love towards Cheria Barnes without sounding like some pretentious hack? Good question. Really, the main thing that makes me love Cheria is her personality. While I do enjoy my tomboys and kick-ass ladies, I have a big soft spot for girly girls, and that's exactly what Cheria is. And combined with her constant doting mom attitude towards a good bit of the party, as well as her being the butt of many jokes and skits, she becomes one of the most entertaining characters in the game. And yeah, her affection towards Asbel can be a turnoff, especially with how Graces mostly doesn't know how to write romance, but in stuff like skits, side events, and even certain moments of the main story, it feels a lot more endearing and cute. And her insistence on not telling Asbel how she feels is also the main reason why she ends up as the butt monkey a lot of the time, which is fine by me. Look, I won't force you into liking Cheria. 90% of her screen time in the main story is not very good, and you really have to look for some of this stuff to get the full appreciation for her. But even then, I could never hate Cheria. She's funny, she's cute, she's a mom friend, and while she can be a little aggravating at times, I always come back to loving her. I know putting her above someone like Chronos or even Emile is a little questionable, but sometimes just charm and personality can go a long way for me. I could also say that about nearly every main character in Graces, but that's just the way the coochie crumbles, I guess. While I do have some mixed feelings on Berseria's cast, I think it's overall a very well put together team of misfits, and I did find myself warming up to pretty much all of the cast by the end of the game, though there were still characters I liked from the very beginning, which might explain why my favorite of this particular game ended up being Little Baby. When you first meet Laphicet, or Malak number 2, he's a soulless puppet controlled by one of the antagonists. However, when he's kidnapped by Velvet and crew, he slowly starts to develop an identity of his own. And when Velvet christens him as Laphicet after her late little brother, he becomes completely aware of himself and throws away his days as a puppet. Here we come to the main reason I love Laphicet: his constant growth throughout Berseria. He's always eager to learn new things, and his curiosity and reactions to different things make him feel like a real human child, which is another way of saying that he's fucking adorable. Look at him! He polishes his trusty compass, gets excited over the smallest of cool things, and he doesn't want to be called a kid because he wants to be manly. God, I love him! He's my son! But that's not all, because by the end of the game, Laphicet comes to have a strong will of his own, to the point where he's ready to fight the world if it means taking away his happiness. And I think with that, he represents the themes of the game the best. So at the end of the day, Laphicet is a great character who excels both in cuteness and character development. And while I'd say most of the other party members don't compare, I do think that this Tales cast, along with a certain other one, feels a lot like a family. And at the heart of that family is one extremely good boy. It might surprise you to hear, considering how I mostly talk about modern Tales games, that I've played the very first Tales game, Tales of Fantasia. Now, I played the GBA version, and it has aged kinda really badly, but I still enjoyed my time with the game for what it was, particularly for its story and characters. Granted, if you've played a JRPG before, chances are some of these guys are gonna feel pretty familiar, but that doesn't mean they can't be enjoyable. I mean, they gave us the best girl in the series, so.
I don't take constructive criticism on my factual opinions.
RJ Kline is the resident broom-riding mage of this wacky fantasy game, and I love her very much. She's a very energetic and quirky individual with a tendency to tease and make fun of her fellow party members. But that doesn't mean she isn't a good friend. She cares about her friends a lot. When you first meet her, she's being possessed by the spirit of her dead friend, who she willingly let take control so that her friend could get revenge on the man who killed her entire village. Now that's some commitment to friendship. And that's the main thing I love about Archie. She goes through so much shit, like being turned into stone as a collateral, seeing her mom who she thought she was dead only to not being able to actually meet with her, and the usual half of discrimination. But despite all that, she's still able to keep her head held high and stay her optimistic, teasing, joking self. We see many times that she's hurting inside, but she chooses to help her friends instead and believe in the most positive outcome. Archie might not be the deepest female character in the series, but I really admire her resolve to keep moving forward with a smile, as well as her mischievous behavior that never fails to put a smile on my face. Plus, she's an adorable pink-haired witch girl, and that is absolutely my weakness. So a majority of the new Xillia 2 cast was pretty mediocre. But the cast of the original Tales of Xillia is phenomenal, and I will fight you on this should the need arise. Each and every one of these beautiful people brings something interesting to the table, be it with their backstory, development, motivations, so on, so forth. But I'm a vanilla piece of shit, and you can bet your ass Jude is the best character. The main thing that makes Jude Mathis such a good character is the fact that out of all the Tales protagonists I've encountered, he's the one that feels the most relatable and human. I mean, there are definitely other relatable protagonists in the series, but Jude's whole character arc focuses around finding his purpose for living. While he does go to a medical school and has a promising future ahead of him, he feels lost and his life lacks real direction, which I think is something everyone has experienced at some point in one way or another. It's only when he's thrown into this adventure with Mila and everyone else when he starts to think about what he really wants out of his life. Learning more about the world and encountering different people, Jude finally finds his will and decides to act upon the things that are wrong with both Rize Maxia and Olympius. And seeing him mature like this is super satisfying. Another thing I love about Jude is that while he's mostly very calm and composed, he's still only 15, and there are moments where his more childish side comes through. These moments not only add to his charm, but they also emphasize another part of his character arc, his journey to manhood. By the end of the game, he stood up to both kings of Rize Maxia, went against the entirety of Exodus, quite literally punched a god in the face, and all of this started from him nearly drowning pathetically to a water bubble. What a guy! Overall, I just love Jude. He's a very good boy who will protect, but he's also a determined young man with strong convictions who will also attack. You the man, Jude. You the man.
Fellas.
And here we come to the main reason why this list is only one per game. Tales of Vesperia would have dominated this list. This is without a doubt my favorite cast in the series, and almost any member of the party could have a shot at taking a spot on this top 10. But alas, there were other non-Vesperia people I wanted to talk about, so we're stuck with just one this time. And I want to say that choosing my favorite was hard, and it kinda was, but Raven, man. You want an old man comic relief done right? Well, here's a middle-aged man comic relief done right. Raven is really funny, often having the flair for the dramatic, cracking snarky comments every chance he gets, as well as ogling over female beauty. And you'd think some of this stuff would get old after a while, but Raven always manages to have new tricks up his sleeve to make us smile, and others definitely don't overlook his sleazy behavior. By which I mean that everyone treats him like shit. Maybe dial back on the pervy old man, but that's not the main reason I love Raven. That would be his backstory. Simply put, this guy leads a big double life. He was originally a noble from Zophius who lost his life in the war 10 years ago, only to be revived by Alexei, one of the antagonists, by replacing his perished heart with a Blastia. Since then, Raven has been working as Alexei's personal henchman Schwan, doing work for the guilds as Raven, as well as helping brave Vesperia on the side, and you can see the internal conflict he has about his life both before and after the reveal. I adore Raven simply because aside from being just a pervert butt monkey, he also has some actual depth to his character and some development that hasn't put his alliances toward Yuri and the others. And frankly, if a character can keep me entertained and give me some interesting backstory to chew on, you've got yourself a real winner right there. Before we bring this tale to its conclusion, here are some runner-ups that didn't make the cut. Yuri Lowell, very badass and fun protagonist who reflects Vesperia's themes really well. Malik Caesars, I love me some mature mentor characters, and Malik scratches that itch pretty well. Also, he's hilarious. Alvin, another badass with a great backstory and even better development. Eleanor Hume, a big cutie pie with great development and arc. Also, she's mom and I'm weak for mom friends. Shina Fujibayashi, another cutie with a very endearing personality and awesome moments throughout the game. Leia Rolando. On a scale from 1 to 10 in cuteness, Leia would be a solid 15. I also tend to have a huge smile on my face whenever she's on the screen, so she must be doing something right. Guy Cecil, a typical best friend character, but with a twist. Also voiced by John Young Bosch. Esteli Sidos Herasain. Cute daughter? Cute daughter. Also one of the best character arcs in Vesperia. Tales of the Abyss is not a perfect game. You might even say it has poorly aged in some aspects. You might even say it's mid, as the kids call it. But tell me its story and characters are bad, and we have a lawsuit. Nah, obviously the story can't appeal to absolutely everyone either, but Abyss's narrative in particular really resonates with me. And there's one key person who's a pretty important part of that. Don't you just love when your favorite character from a series is a huge can of worms? I know Luke isn't exactly a perfect character. Maybe his early behavior was just too unbearable, maybe his character later on is just too little too late, or maybe you just hate everyone in Abyss that isn't Jade Curtis. But frankly, even after hearing tons of arguments against Luke's character, I still can't call him anything less than my favorite. Yes, he's a huge brat during the first third, but not only is the game pretty much trying to make you hate Luke in the beginning, but it's also justified since as the replica of the original Luke, he's technically only 7 years old. And when he learns this fact, along with destroying a town due to being manipulated by the one person he trusted and looked up to, his whole life turns upside down and he's forced to mature. And that's exactly what he's going to do. His growth isn't instantaneous though. He still makes mistakes and shows signs of immaturity, but he grows and keeps moving forward despite that. And that's exactly what I love about Luke. His development is not only very well done, but his arc of wanting to live and find his own path and identity is very inspiring. Add that in with his banter and other interactions with the party, his relationship with the female lead Tyr, and Yuri Lowenthal's jaw-dropping performance, and I'm more than happy to call Luke my favorite character in the series. It doesn't matter what you think, here I am, with my stinky onions.
I'm FinnishDuck, and if you'll excuse me, it's time for a Tales Marathon. Fuck!
I wanna be a hero. Pokemon!
Hello everybody, welcome to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the 20-something minutes of me rambling about JRPG anime people. Progress on videos has been a little slow thanks to various different factors, but I have a lot of projects in production and I'm hoping to get them all out before the year ends. Though, considering it's almost November, no promises. And hey, if you're new here, check out my other stuff as well. I talk about other things too, aside from anime video games.